Hey everyone, Wolf Lord Rho here. Before we begin today, I just want to say a huge thank you to Jordan for the virtual gift voucher. Thank you very much, my friend. I really appreciate it. A huge thank you. But on to today. Today we're discussing the faults of the legend that is Bjorn the Fell-Handed. Oh yes, we're taking another trip down memory lane with some more old school Warhammer 40k lore from the 2nd edition Space Wolves Codex. Now this book is all kinds of me. The old school models, the character of the Space Wolves, the greys, the yellows. It's just awesome. It brings back so many great memories for me. And the story we're discussing today is a short story from the Codex, and it's just a single page of fluff. But man, when I read it, it really struck a chord with me. Like I was literally there on the walls of the Fang with such an iconic character. For those of you who have never purchased codexes before, you really should consider them. If you want to get into the character of certain armies or factions, learn more about their backgrounds and motivations, and not to mention read some awesome short stories, you can't go wrong with the codexes. And if you do have your old ones stashed away somewhere, do yourself a favour and dig them out and give them a good read through. You will not be disappointed, I promise you. Now for those of you who for some crazy reason may not know who the legend of Bjorn the Fell-Handed is, Bjorn was the only member of the Primarch Leman Russ's Wolf Guard left behind by the Primarch himself upon his departure to the Eye of Terror. Bjorn ultimately became the first appointed Great Wolf himself after 7 years of Russ's absence. Then, after finally falling in battle himself, became entombed inside a dreadnought where he continued to serve the Imperium for his Primarch and for the Allfather, the Emperor of Mankind. Now, some 10,000 years later, Bjorn continues to do just that. But he is only awoken once every 1,000 years or in times of the most dire need. But with that said, let's just jump straight in. Bjorn stood on the topmost level of the Fang and wondered what it would be like to breathe again, to walk open faced beneath the cold, dark sky, to hold a bolter in his fist and feel the kick when he pulled the trigger. He swiveled his head to one side, aware of the hum of hydraulics and the ancient shifting of cogs and gears. He could rotate his field of vision through 360 degrees if he wanted to, but somehow that felt wrong. It never ceased to amaze him how the millennia-old reflexes of his body still tricked him after all these years, just as the appetites of his body still lived, long after he had outlived his ability to fulfill them. There were times when he still craved the raw bloody taste of bear steak. There were times when all he wanted to do was down a huge stein of foaming ale. When he had stepped out through an airlock into the airless heights above the world, he had still felt an urge to hold his breath. He laughed inwardly and admired the view. Old fool, he thought, be grateful for what you have. I think the poignancy of those words really sum up just what makes Bjorn such a great character. He is, for all intents and purposes, a machine, a weapon of war. Yet here we see his mind is still so completely human. Even after all this time, he retains his personality, his character, which helps to make him so unique within the lore. Bjorn continues his vigil of Fenris, staring out across the curved horizon, endless cold ice and snow as far as his eye can see, and with his dreadnought enhancements, that's pretty far. And then, as is quite normal for Fenris, he sees a storm approaching from across the aptly named Sea of Storms. He ponders it being an omen of things to come, hoping not, but realistically knowing it most likely is. They wouldn't have awoken him from his centuries of sleep unless they needed to. And it's great here because he refers to them as young ones. You've got fearsome warriors and legends in their own right. A legend across the Imperium of 100 battle zones or more, such as the Great Wolf Logan Grimnar. But to Bjorn, he's just a young one. And you know what? You're damn right he is. And you know, not one of them, not a single one, would have a problem with that. That's the respect that Bjorn commands. And man, it almost gives you chills to think about. And then again his thoughts turn to his dreams. He appreciates that he's left to them. There were times when he wondered if it was all they were. Had there really been a time when he had worn the flesh? When his body had lived and breathed and walked among men? Had he really once watched Russ stand on the ice plain of Skagerrak and command his roaring host of warriors to board those gleaming silver ships? Had he really fought his way across the galaxy from Fenris to distant Earth during the dark days of the Horus Heresy? There were times when some of those long-gone memories seemed little more than fever dreams. I mean, obviously, it goes without saying, but none of us can understand what it must be like to live 10,000 years. I mean, you get to adulthood and your child memories become more feelings and emotions than crystal clear memories. But then Bjorn can remember some as clear as day. His long-lost comrades, the war cries and battlefields, the raising of Prospero. And then I was almost taken aback by the next line, and the mangled form of the Emperor being placed within his golden throne by Rogel Dawn. Now this was obviously written some 26 years ago. Jeez, saying that makes me feel like Bjorn, the old warrior Wolf Lord. But as we know for definite now, the wolves are not at the Siege of Terror. But will they make it back in time to witness this moment? Leman Russ's Primarch novel, The Great Wolf, implicitly states Russ did not get back in time to witness the moment. But man, I really like the thought of Bjorn having been there to witness one of the most pivotal moments in the history of the Imperium. Is the retcon going to take anything away from his character? No, of course not. He's a legend, bar none. But I don't know how they could make it happen, but I'd really like it if Bjorn were there. That you can imagine him telling the young ones of this moment. Not only of the Primarch Leman Russ's last words before he left them, but of the moment he saw the Primarch Rogel Dawn carrying the broken body of the Emperor of Mankind and placing him within the throne. Now that does give me chills. What a legend. He could remember things that were only legend to those who live today, but mostly what he remembered was Russ, his Primarch. The roaring, roistering giant he had followed across 100 worlds in those ancient days. By all that was sacred, had there ever been another such man? He doubted it. Russ had been a giant, and there were no more giants left. It seemed impossible to believe that such one as Russ could die. He had burned with life and power and pride. Bjorn did not believe that he was dead. The power of the Primarch transcended mere mortality. He knew that somehow Russ would defy time and come back to the Fang one day. Oh, he will, Bjorn, he will. And I can't wait to read and hear their interaction when it happens. I truly hope, that we get a short story or chapter specifically from Bjorn's point of view. In this moment, that after all this time, 10,000 years, the feeling Bjorn gets on that nameless battlefield when he hears that wolf howl pierce the sky, and he knows that Leman Russ has returned. Oh man, seriously, and if that does not happen, if Bjorn is not there, I will riot. And then the airlock door behind him opens, and an aged rune priest stands waiting. An aged warrior who wasn't even born the last time Bjorn was awoken. With powerful mechanical strides, he walked back towards the airlock and stepped inside. The door hissed shut behind him. The transparent inner door slid open. "The Great Wolf wishes to see you now, Lord," said the rune priest. "I shall take you to him." Bjorn studied the man. The reverential expression there seemed more at home on the face of an aspirant than that on a lined visage. "There's no need," he said. "I know the way." Oh man, Bjorn the Fell-Handed. Such a badass. He really is. I know I'm a biased Wolf Lord, but come on, there are few characters in the current 40k timeline lore that live up to the term legend quite as much as Bjorn. He truly epitomizes the word. I mean, just look at this story. Absolutely awesome, and all he was doing is standing on the walls of the Fang, looking out at the horizon. But as always, what did you guys think? Do you respect the Fell-Handed as much as me? Do you think he deserves to be there upon his Primarch's return? And what about an upgrade? Does Bjorn deserve to get a new model in line with the new scale Primaris dreadnoughts? It's not quite as imposing as it used to be with the scale update. Drop your thoughts in the comments below, I love to read them. A huge thank you to all of my subscribers. Your support really means a lot to me, it truly does. And if you're new, please consider subscribing to help the channel grow. If you enjoyed this particular vid, then why not drop a like on it too. But with that said, I am off, and I'll see you all again real soon.